Okay, so with the Shadow-fueled season finale of Sonic Boom out of the way, I guess our third part of this series of videos is in order. So, Character Identity, Sonic Boom, Part 3. In the first video, I noticed that the rocky beginnings of Sonic Boom caused a severe identity crisis with Boom, where individual sections of the franchise, the TV show, the games, the PR and media around it, all seem to disagree with each other, whether this is a comedy-adventure show starring an alternative version of Sonic, a comedy-comedy show starring an empty Sonic-shaped shell for the writers to insert their own anxieties of society into, or some weird combination of the two. Then, based on the official character descriptions, I took a look at the characters that have the most extreme disconnection from what they're supposed to be and who they actually were on the show. Then in the second video, I looked at the few characters that were, more or less, consistent within the Sonic Boom universe, and just for fun, I explored how they were compared to the original series, if only to demonstrate that Sonic Boom isn't so much a new take on the Sonic universe, but merely the next step of an evolution that's been going on for a while now. And now, in this third part, we look at two more characters, Metal Sonic and Shadow, but now yet again with an entirely different angle. See, the thing about Sonic Boom, the TV show in particular, the charm, the humor, the purpose pretty much from the show, is to take the Sonic the Hedgehog franchise, which, at least in its early start, was all about the celebration of machoism, of energy, their speed, larger-than-life characters, and big adventures, and big music, and big set pieces. It's all about big, and intense, and fast, and energetic. It's taking all of this, and then entirely removing the masculinity out of it, while dimming the effects, instead focusing more on misunderstanding, social issues, twisting the action-adventure aspects, and getting joy and humor out of watching our heroes in situations out of their comfort zone, which is amusing. But here's where it gets very interesting, because for whatever reason, they decided to add Metal Sonic and Shadow into this series. And Metal Sonic, and especially Shadow, are basically the peak, the representatives, the ultimate core of the old masculinity. So that immediately raises an interesting question. How will the peaks of masculinity survive in a world almost devoid of it? At first I was fully expecting them to be dismantled and humiliated, pretty much like what happens with Knuckles. Metal Sonic would be all cool and awesome for 5 seconds and then he falls apart. And Eggman's like, "Get up, you heap of rubble! You're Sonic's double! You're not supposed to lay down! You're supposed to be like Sonic and be all... Oh. The end. And as for Shadow, well, obviously... That's pretty much what I expected. But whoops, egg on my face, derp. The TV show got me and surprisingly played Metal Sonic and Shadow reasonably straight. They're intense, they're serious. No malfunctions, no outright out-of-character moments, no deconstruction. They're right there, ready for action, and action we got. Well, how about that? Sonic Boom fans, and especially Metal Sonic fans, were happy. So, Sonic Boom succeeded with flying colors. Well done. But let's be assholes and take a closer look at them and explore the episode around the sequence. Again, not so much for judging Sonic Boom per se. Again, I don't really give a damn whether anyone considers this TV show good or bad. This is about curiosity. Let's look at what characters do, what they mean, how they work. The characters themselves are correct, but what about the episode around them, the context we find them in? So first, Metal Sonic. How to write him.
Metal Sonic is easy to write. Eggman Robot was defeat Sonic, end. Or, if you want to be fancy, his programming overrides his respect for Eggman and he acts on his own, like in Heroes and Free Riders. That's about it.
Oh, hi Luke. Missed being here?
Sure, Rog.
The Metal Sonic battle's pretty good. It has dynamic. Sonic's intimidated, has to change strategies. Sometimes he's on top, sometimes Metal's in charge. Actual action dynamic that isn't just everyone slapping robots around. I'm kinda surprised how many people complain the action scene is a little slow and stiff. I mean, it is, but this is Sonic Boom. This is still the best action sequence, outside of maybe the first episode that this show ever had.
Also, I had to get this out of the way. How did they know who Metal Sonic is, even though he never appeared in the series before? Does this mean Rise of Lyric is canon, or that as he doesn't speak, they had to introduce him somehow?
Good question. Let's come back to that later. For now, sure, let's assume Rise of Lyric is indeed a prequel of the show like it's supposed to be. More interesting is how the rest of the episode deals with Metal Sonic, where in the first episode of Sonic Boom, the action sequence feels natural and flowing fluently within the story. This Metal Sonic fight feels completely out of place. The whole episode feels like the writers felt so miserable about having to play the action scene straight, that they made the rest of the episode even more random than usual. Now, the thing is, when I watched the episode for the first time, the Metal Sonic appearance caught me by surprise. Not just by the fact of, oh my god, Metal, but the fact that the episode was leading to any kind of actual relevation at all. Because, talking about the episode around Metal Sonic, if I had to describe this episode in some way, I'd call it unfocused. Like the humor comes from all over the place. Knuckles is super stupid, yet later it's revealed it was all a ruse, and he's extremely uncharacteristically smart by luring the townsfolk away. Sometimes the humor is just random, like the horseshoes flying and the cop helping Eggman, but it's also trying to be smart, Eggman mocking the cop for asking for specifics of the description of his gadgetry. Sometimes it's extremely sarcastic, like Earl is being hit by a horseshoe early on that got him severely wounded, but then later it happens again, but now Sonic and Knuckles laugh at his pain like psychopaths. I mean, I get it. They're doing a parody of end of the episode things, like old cartoons, have it that someone is humiliated and then everyone laughs. Individually a very funny joke, but the tone doesn't fit with the rest of the episode. That's a bitter, sarcastic, itchy and scratchy kind of logic. Like, almost every joke seems to have a different tone to it. This episode desperately wants to surprise the viewer and surprises with a twist. But because the foundation is already extremely random and there's a new twist every minute, my brain just checks out early on. I don't know, the episode is really all over the place. It's too smart and too stupid at the same time. And right in the middle of this confusion, Metal Sonic! Oh, hey! Oh, serious action scene, okay. I guess I need to be invested in this now, okay.
It's kinda like Family Guy, isn't it? The gang's having a nice chat, a cup of tea, some biscuits, some compliments, a nice friendly welcome, and all of a sudden chicken attack! The point is, it's like a scene out of a completely different movie suddenly appearing.
Exactly. Maybe that was the intention. Except again, it's too weak and dull to work as a joke. Like a Family Guy, there's crazy set pieces and ridiculous action, it goes completely over the top so you know it's a big joke. Where here it's, well, like a normal action scene, so it doesn't really feel like a joke. I don't know, this episode is just so confusing. It's trying to be three entirely different things at the same time and ends up becoming nothing. Which makes it a perfect demonstration of Sonic Boom's identity problem, I guess. It's equally too smart and too stupid at the same time for its own good. So yeah, Metal Sonic is intact and well written. Not that you have to write much with Metal Sonic, but I suppose not adding extra bullshit also counts for good writing. So Metal Sonic is great, but man, do they put him in an episode where he does not belong in at all. Then again, a character like Metal Sonic would feel unnatural in a show like Sonic Boom to begin with, so that was to be expected. However, Sonic Boom uses that notion to their advantage with Shadow. Here's a funny thing you can do. Look at the Shadow episode again and imagine instead of Shadow it's like Jason Voorhees standing there, same face expression, well, mask expression, same minimal dialogue, just standing there with his knife, just staring at the annoying teens in the slasher being annoying and mocking about until he had enough and randomly starts a killing spree. Because that's kind of what it is, putting an alien character in a show where he does not belong in.
Say, that wolf ringleader looks a bit familiar. Hey Roger, quickly put a moustache on him. Nah, it doesn't remind me of anyone.
Not at all indeed. So yeah, got Shadow correctly on the show. That is, they don't do anything wrong. Mostly because they don't do anything at all. Kind of fascinating that the character who's all about having an identity and being on an eternal quest to find one is entirely devoid of one in this universe.
It's funny how Shadow appears, right? He's just there. Everyone knows him. It's like he's a mythological creature. Like a unicorn, or a tooth fairy or something. No rhyme or reason, he's there. And everyone knows him, and we're supposed to be immediately familiar with the rules. Look, it's a Wild Shadow. He'll fight Sonic, because that's what Wild Shadows do.
Well, he was invited to Eggman's project, but yeah, there's not much context to him. We get no idea why he accepted, or why he knows Sonic, or has a desire to murder him. The thing is, I don't think we're supposed to look at him as a character, but more like an abstract symbolic representation. Basically, Shadow isn't really a character in this episode, he's basically the physical representation of Sonic fans who want serious stories, with Eggman representing fanboys and girls who are too obnoxious, and Sonic and the other villains representing Sonic Boom, I guess. Serious Sonic fans scream angry at the incompetence of Sonic Boom, much as I have in this show, I suppose, in a way. Sonic Boom surprisingly takes a beating until irritating fanboy distracts serious Sonic fan, getting him defeated instead. Moral of the story, serious Sonic fans may have a point, but they are sabotaged by overzealous fans. Alright, got your message, Sonic Boom. Certain Shadow fans can indeed be very obnoxious and shoot themselves in the foot. Then again, there's overexcited fans in every corner of the fan base. So it's a clever, neat episode. So on a symbolic level, Sonic Boom got it covered. However, most Sonic fans don't think on symbolic levels, they take things literally. And if we look at Shadow on a literal level, what kind of actual character he has on the show, well, he's not much of a character. He's a mythological creature. Everyone magically knows what it is, nobody understands it. It's Tooth Fairy. It does Tooth Fairy things and then it disappears back to its Tooth Fairy universe. And then Sonic goes, oh, thing happened, whatever. A mythological creature. Unicorn Shadow, Santa Claus Shadow, legendary Pokemon Shadow. Just shows up in a random battle, go catch him.
Eggman reacting to Shadow in that ep is probably how Star Wars fans probably reacted to seeing Boba Fett, a badass loner that everyone stops and be amazed in his presence as he enters the room. To be fair, I personally feel Shadow is alright in this ep. Apart from him sounding like a pirate, he feels like a competent and threatening villain. And I do like how he calls out Eggman's acts of buffoonery. Also, be amazed as Eggman performs team building exercises. Be thrilled as Sonic and friends put together a piece of furniture from IKEA.
I was indeed thrilled Sonic's doing furniture stuff instead of doing sleeping. So the writer was correct, he did Shadow right. Provided it's comical internet meme Shadow you want. For those who want Shadow to be a genuine character, well, no. He's too fairy. Shadow Fairy shows up, everyone goes, hey look, it's Shadow Fairy, he does Shadow Fairy things. Edgy is internet meme, and punch Sonic because that's what internet meme Shadow Fairy does. And then it goes back to its Shadow Fairy home planet. Bye, Shadow. Heck, we never even find out what Sonic's opinion on the matter is. Now, Shadow's episode is one of my favorite Sonic Boom episodes. It's pretty good. It has a neat message, it has a nice energy, Knuckles isn't useless and has a cool moment, Eggman's funny and has an interesting take on his otherwise very subdued relationship he had with Shadow in the other universe. Shadow's pretty much the best kind of interpretation you can expect on this show, and it had a moral that made sense for once. It's a good episode, but its take on Shadow is very interesting, and there's something I realized, but I'll come to that later. Right now, guess we're done exploring the characters. We've got everyone who originated from the other Sonic universe, and Sonic Boom's original characters are what they are. Luke, Season 1 is over. Your thoughts on Sonic Boom?
Sonic Boom as a whole can be quite funny in places, but can be annoying in certain areas of humour and writing. It's just throwing in hundreds of jokes and see what sticks. Sticks? Get it?
It does, and indeed, hit and miss. Some jokes I love, most are random.
Sonic isn't too bad in this series, probably acted a lot better than Sonic in the Prime universe, but he is a bit annoying in a few episodes. I think how Knuckles imagined Sonic in Fire in a Crowded Workshop is kinda how I view him.
Really? Cute, well-meaning but clumsy? I don't really see that. He's a little too much, well, grumpy grandpa-ish to me. Responsible and mature, but there's no energy or joy to him. Unless he watches his friends get humiliated and hurt. Then he has the time of his life, which, I probably shouldn't think too much about what that implies. But he is way more nicer and more pleasant than he was in the Pontiac games, and that's good. Very happy about that. I just wish he had more energy to him. He's supposed to be hyperactive adventure guy, isn't he? I mean, sure, other incarnations of Sonic also had a lot of sleeping and relaxing, but at least when they wake up, they're awake and ready for action. This one just seems to be stuck on Monday morning mode forever.
Eggman's great in this series, though I wish he was a bit more competent. You can tell Mike Pollock is having fun with this role, but you can tell when he is being shoehorned into nearly every episode when he is not essential to the plot.
Well, like with Shadow, Eggman is often used more symbolically than as a character. Anyway, he's having the time of his life, yeah. Funny. Sometimes I wonder if the creators regret creating Sticks, with Eggman and Knuckles already being the random wildcards. Sticks is barely necessary anymore. Probably explains why the poor girl barely gets any screen time. Anyway, Eggman is the key to Sonic Boom and presents both the good and the bad. Good, he's fun and great, and it's fantastic to see the villain Eggman in his daily life. But it's bad because, well, in order to be a glimpse of the daily life of the villain Eggman, he needs to be the great villain Eggman, which he isn't. I wanted more contrast. It's way funnier whenever Eggman is at top of his game, he's in full Sonic Unleashed mode, over the top intense, and then we watch him degrade and sing and be pathetic. So you have a nice contrast. I'm missing that with Eggman. In order to really hit the joke home that it's Eggman, Robotnik, who we're seeing being pathetic, you need to sell me on the idea that this is the Eggman. Now it feels more like Eggman might as well have been Dave the Intern's incompetent brother. Instead of presenting us with how Eggman the villain slacks off or deals with weird problems in his daily life, it's more the other way around. It's more like we watch like Mike Pollock himself just being a wacky guy at home, and then just happens to dress up like Eggman to fight here and there. It's a moment where he's supposed to be in his natural position that ends up feeling more out of place than whenever he's pathetic. And that kinda ruins the whole point of the joke. For me, at least.
I like how the series is starting to get a rogues gallery. you have Eggman, who's a bit of a silly and ineffectual goof who tries to be evil by doing mundane things. Then you have the Lightning Bolt Society. They are silly and ineffectual goofs who try to be evil by doing mundane things. Then Steve the intern / worker at Medburger, the silly and ineffectual goof who tries to be evil by doing mundane things. And finally, that guy with the giant suit who's a silly and ineffectual goof who tries to be evil by doing mundane things.
Yep, so much variation. Well, there's the circus guy. That's different, I guess.
There was an episode where a moral guardian platypus tried to tone down Sonic to make him more of a role model. This reminds me of Frederick Wortham, who wrote the book Seduction of the Innocent, who wanted to show how violent comic books were and were becoming a bad influence on society's youth, and wanted to make heroes like Batman and Superman better role models. I have been wondering if that episode was a reference to that.
Perhaps I think it's more a commentary on today's society in general. South Park is doing the same thing now. Overzealous political correctness being the big social trend now. Something on the mind of many comedians who feel threatened, especially when dealing with satire or other more sarcastic forms of comedy.
I think this series is to Sonic what the Adam West series is to Batman. A lot more colourful, campy and cheesy. It shows a hero that we used to know that was more badass and was in very dark and serious situations, now in more silly settings. It can be quite an entertaining and fun romp. So yeah, Boom's Sonic is Adam West's Batman, and Boom's Eggman is Cesar Romero's Joker. Or Burgess Meredith's Penguin.
I suppose, although Sonic Boom has a way bigger impact on the core structure of Sonic than Adam West had on Batman. Adam West's Batman is still primarily about a hero fighting crime, except way more, well, 1960s. Where with Sonic Boom, the whole hero-bad guy dynamic is reduced to merely an emphasis on whatever social trends the writers want to comment on. So, back in the Shadow Dissected video, I expressed my confusion why people wanted to see the macho character show up in Boom. Now I understand, and in fact hope that more characters appear in Sonic 2. In Season 2, if only so I can watch the writers squirm and twist in uncomfortable positions just to make it work. With Metal Sonic appearing out of the hell nowhere to fight, Shadow appearing out of the hell nowhere to fight, with most internet memes as a guideline how they function, it'd be amazing. Like, you have a Sonic Boom episode where Sonic goes to the bank to repurpose his monetary income for the stock market so the flow of his income can be more efficiently directed towards his retirement, where the bank teller is obnoxious and annoying and Sonic's bored and Stick says random words and Knuckles forgets how to stand upright, and then BAM! Look! It's Silver the Hedgehog! It's no use! I am a character from video game that has loading screens!
It's no use! It's no use! It's no use!
And Silver's like, it was no use, I go back to my home planet now, buy my merchandise, bye, and Sonic's like, and then the next episode, Sonic is like, and then it's Bob's squirrel rabbit thing, and the end. Hyperbolic parody thinking aside. Sonic Boom. If this show was released back in 2006, I might have enjoyed it a lot more. Now it mostly highlights all the things that were already starting to bother me in the mainstream games, so it hits all the wrong nerves. I don't know. Maybe I'll look more fondly at it further in the future. As for now, technically I should love the concept, but it just doesn't have the right energy to it. Although one thing I realized, one thing that makes the series of videos I made entirely pointless and undermines my entire series of Dissected. Okay, we lied on one bit. We said Shadow and Metal Sonic weren't given an introduction or context in the show. This isn't true. They are given a history, a personality, an identity, a context in the show. Eggman says it here.
He's only the second most popular character in the whole canon!
Shadow is the second most favorite character from Canon. So what the hell is a canon from Eggman's perspective, and why does he consider a person standing in his room where he can interact with a character? Well, this is a big thing. Even though the humor of, say, the Pontiac games Sonic Boom and the Sonic Terror account, even Sonic Runners are entirely different from each other, this is the one theme every single one of Sonic media has in common these days. That they no longer operate on internal logic, but on external logic. I'm not going into this right now, I think it deserves a video on its own. In fact, I made one and I'll link to it in the description. But yeah, I think there's a strange evolution going on in where the audience is expected to approach the Sonic universe, all of it increasingly more from an external logic than an internal one. This is the one thing I'll be for on the lookout the most when news about Sonic 2016 rolls around.
My, aren't you a spot of sunshine, Rog?
Yeah, too early to make predictions. Just saying I'm feeling a very strong tide. A tide toward a very in-joke, in-knowledge heavy narrative and gameplay that's very more video gamey than exciting adventure having experience.
I'm sure Sonic 2016 will be action-packed again, and we all look back at Sonic Boom as the goofy, campy show that it is.
We'll see. So, you guys think they got Metal and Shadow just right? Have a list of all your favorite characters that have already been acknowledged not to appear in the next season of this show? Let us know in the comments.